The studio lights of the view burned brighter than usual that morning, reflecting off the glossy table where the hosts sat in their familiar semicircle. The audience buzzed with anticipation, whispers rippling through the seats like a restless tide. Prince Harry was the featured guest, his presence already controversial, already loaded with expectation. Social media had been alive since dawn, speculating whether the conversation would be sympathetic or explosive. No one, however, predicted just how sharply the balance of power would shift once Megyn Kelly took her seat at the table. Prince Harry entered with practiced calm, offering a polite smile and a nod to the crowd. He looked composed, but there was a tension in his shoulders, the subtle stiffness of someone bracing for impact. He had done countless interviews, survived relentless headlines, and learned to speak carefully. Still, something about this setting felt different. Megyn Kelly wasn't a regular host, but a special guest co-host for the day, and her reputation preceded her. She didn't circle her questions. She didn't soften them. And she didn't back down. The conversation began smoothly enough. Childhood memories, charity work, mental health advocacy, topics Harry knew well. He spoke earnestly, hands clasped, voice measured. The hosts nodded along, occasionally interjecting with affirmations. For a moment, it seemed like just another televised discussion. Then Megyn leaned forward. "Prince Harry," she said, her tone calm but edged with steel, "you've spoken a lot about accountability, institutions needing to answer for their mistakes. But many critics say you demand accountability from everyone except yourself. How do you respond to that?" The room shifted. Harry blinked once, then smiled thinly. "I've taken responsibility for my actions many times," he replied. "But I also believe context matters." Megyn nodded slowly. "Context does matter," she agreed. "So let's talk context. You've accused the media of cruelty, yet you've participated in tell-all interviews, books, and documentaries that target your own family. Do you see the contradiction?" A murmur ran through the audience. One of the hosts tried to interject, but Megyn gently raised a hand, maintaining eye contact with Harry. Harry's jaw tightened. "Sharing my truth isn't an attack," he said. "It's about healing." Megyn didn't miss a beat. "Healing for whom?" she asked. "Because from the outside, it looks less like healing and more like monetizing grievance." The word monetizing landed like a dropped glass. Harry shifted in his chair. "That's unfair," he said, his voice sharpening. "You're reducing years of pain into a soundbite." Megyn's expression remained steady. "And you," she countered, "have reduced complex institutions and people into villains for the sake of your narrative. Isn't that exactly what you accuse the press of doing to you?" Silence filled the studio, thick, uncomfortable, unavoidable. Harry opened his mouth, then paused. Cameras zoomed in, catching the fleeting flash of frustration in his eyes. "I expected tough questions," he said finally, "but not hostility." Megyn smiled, not warmly, but confidently. "This isn't hostility," she replied. "It's scrutiny. Something public figures ask for when they go public." One of the hosts attempted to steer the conversation back to safer ground, but the momentum had shifted. The audience was locked in now, breath held. Megyn continued, her voice firm. "You've spoken about privilege and inequality, yet you live a life most people can't imagine. You criticize systems that elevated you. Do you acknowledge that without those systems, your voice wouldn't carry nearly as far?" Harry exhaled sharply. "I never denied my privilege," he said. "I'm trying to use it responsibly." "Responsibly?" Megyn echoed, "or selectively?" That was the moment the tension snapped. Harry leaned forward, his composure cracking. "With respect," he said, "this feels less like an interview and more like an ambush." Megyn met his gaze without flinching. "With respect," she replied, "an ambush is unexpected. These questions are ones millions are already asking." The audience erupted, some applause, some gasps. The hosts exchanged glances, unsure whether to intervene or let the exchange run its course. Harry sat back, lips pressed together. For a long second, he said nothing. When he finally spoke, his voice was quieter. "I came here to have a conversation, not to be put on trial." Megyn softened her tone just slightly. "Conversations are hardest when they challenge us," she said. "And accountability isn't punishment, it's clarity." The segment ended shortly after, the hosts thanking Harry for joining them. He nodded, offered a restrained smile, and stood as the cameras faded out. Off-air, the studio buzzed with nervous energy. Producers whispered. Assistants rushed in. The audience continued talking, replaying the exchange in hushed, excited tones. Within minutes, clips of the clash flooded social media. Headlines followed fast and merciless. Megyn Kelly confronts Prince Harry live, an uncomfortable moment on The View, when tough questions meet royal silence. Opinions split sharply, but one thing was undeniable: the power dynamic had flipped, live on air. Prince Harry had arrived expecting sympathy. Megyn Kelly had delivered scrutiny. And in that charged studio, under unforgiving lights, the world watched as a carefully managed narrative cracked, if only for a moment, revealing something raw, human, and deeply uncomfortable beneath. Backstage, the air felt heavier than it had moments before. Prince Harry walked past the mirrors and cables with a tight nod to staffers who avoided his eyes. The confident composure he'd carried onto The View had drained away, replaced by a quiet storm brewing behind his expression. His team clustered around him, whispering urgently, damage control already underway. Phones buzzed non-stop. Alerts stacked faster than anyone could read them. In another corner of the studio, Megyn Kelly removed her microphone with deliberate calm. She wasn't smiling now, but she wasn't rattled either. A producer approached her, voice low and tense. "That was intense," he said carefully. Megyn lifted an eyebrow. "It was honest," she replied. Live television just doesn't let people hide. Within an hour, the internet had chosen sides. Clips of the exchange exploded across platforms, some trimmed to highlight Harry's frustration, others freezing on Megyn's unblinking stare as she delivered her sharpest lines. Comment sections became battlegrounds. Supporters of Harry accused Megyn of cruelty and disrespect. Others praised her for asking what no one else dared to ask on daytime television. Harry's car ride away from the studio was silent except for the hum of traffic and the vibration of his phone. His publicist finally broke the quiet. "We can still spin this," she said cautiously. "Emphasize mental health. Say you were caught off guard." Harry stared out the window. "Was I?" he asked quietly. She hesitated. He didn't look at her, but she could hear something unfamiliar in his voice, not anger this time, but doubt. That evening, Megyn Kelly sat in her hotel room, reviewing the footage once more. She replayed the moment when Harry accused her of ambush, pausing on his face as the words left his mouth. For a split second, she wondered if she'd gone too far. Then she remembered the countless polished interviews she'd watched over the years, questions softened, contradictions ignored. Her phone rang. A colleague from another network laughed on the other end. "You broke the internet," he said. "They're calling it the most uncomfortable moment on The View in years." Megyn exhaled. "Discomfort isn't always bad," she said. "Sometimes it's necessary." The next morning, headlines dominated news sites worldwide. Analysts dissected every sentence, every pause. Body language experts weighed in. Former royals commentators argued on panels. One phrase appeared again and again: narrative collapse. Harry woke early, sleep elusive. He scrolled through reactions until the words blurred together. Praise, condemnation, memes. He stopped at a short clip someone had posted with a simple caption: "She asked what no one else would." For the first time since leaving the royal family, Harry felt something close to being truly exposed, not by tabloids, but by a question he couldn't easily answer. Later that day, he sat alone with a notebook he hadn't touched in months. No cameras, no advisors, just silence. He wrote a single line at the top of the page: "Why does this bother me so much?" The answer didn't come easily. Meanwhile, Megyn appeared on a late-night news roundup via satellite. The host asked the question everyone expected: "Do you regret how hard you went on Prince Harry?" Megyn shook her head. "No," she said. "I respect him enough to treat him like an adult with agency. Not a symbol. Not a victim. An adult." "Some say you humiliated him," the host pressed. Megyn's gaze was steady. "Humiliation happens when a person's own words corner them," she replied. "I just held up the mirror." The clip went viral too. 2 days later, an unexpected statement appeared on Prince Harry's official channel. It wasn't long. It wasn't defensive. And it surprised almost everyone. "Conversations are uncomfortable when they force self-reflection," it read. "While I didn't agree with everything said, I recognize the importance of being challenged, not just supported." Commentators scrambled to interpret it. Was it an admission, a strategic pivot, or something more genuine? Megyn read the statement quietly, then closed her laptop. For the first time since the broadcast, she smiled. Weeks passed, but the moment refused to fade. Journalism schools analyzed the interview. Media critics called it a turning point, proof that even the most protected public figures could still be questioned, live, without filters. Ratings for The View surged. Megyn received both threats and praise, sometimes in the same email. As for Harry, something subtle shifted. His next public appearance was different. Fewer rehearsed lines, longer pauses before answering. When asked about criticism, he didn't deflect. He listened. One reporter noticed and wrote, "He seems less certain, but more real." Months later, at a conference on media responsibility, Megyn and Harry found themselves in the same room again, no cameras, no audience. Just panels, coffee, and quiet conversations. They passed each other in the hallway, exchanged a brief nod. Nothing more. But that nod carried weight. Because sometimes, humiliation isn't about being torn down. Sometimes, it's the moment a carefully built story cracks, just enough for truth to finally get in.